Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Mike Hatch, and today I am speaking with Linda Miller. Linda Miller works at Harvest Baptist Church up in Natrona Heights, and she started something called the Amazing Shake. The Amazing Shake is a competition that develops professional skills for the next generation of leaders, and these are typically 5th graders through 8th graders. And I can tell you from experience, because I was there last year at the first one, that it is a dynamic and exciting live competition that rallies leaders and role models in a school's community together to teach students about professional skills for success. I'm telling you, this is one of the coolest events I've had the opportunity to be a part of. Linda did an amazing job stepping out for her community up there in Natrona Heights to start this event, really engaging in the entrepreneurial experimental process. And we talk about what that looked like for her. We also talk a little bit about her background professionally and what led her to eventually decide to start this event for their church. My hope in sharing this interview with Linda Miller is that we can rally more community leaders, especially business leaders in the Pittsburgh region, to come out and support and volunteer for this event and experience it for yourself. It's a great networking event, number one. Number two, you're going to be incredibly inspired and have all sorts of hope about the next generation. During our interview, Linda shares her email address and other contact information to be able to find out more about the Amazing Shake, so make sure you check out those details. And before we jump in, hey, please give us a 5-star review if you've considered this show to be impactful or valuable. We would really appreciate it. Also, for all of you fellow Bitcoiners who are listening, I have given the opportunity now for you to support the show with Bitcoin. And you'll see 2 links at the very top of the show notes that you can click on to do just that. Again, I'd be super appreciative. And if you are a Bitcoiner, you know that right now we are at the beginning of a Bitcoin bull run. And let me just encourage those of you who've been watching this and wondering, wait, what is this? Should I get in now? Should I not? Stop. Stop. I remember the last cycle when this was happening, and I had the same feelings. Should I buy in now? It just seems to be going up. Like, how can I miss out? I need to just buy in. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, I need to get some altcoins, some other cryptocurrencies, and ride the wave up with Bitcoin. Stop. First, you need to educate yourself. You need to get in and learn about Bitcoin. I actually created a 3-part webinar series, and it's available on my YouTube channel. I'll leave links in the show notes for you so you can go check that out. And it gives you a kind of an introduction to the redemptive value of Bitcoin. And I think it'll help you at least get started down the road to educate yourself more about this incredible disruptive technology. All right, that's enough. Let's go ahead and jump in now to our interview with Linda Miller. All right, Linda, it is so good to have you with me here on the Redemptive Economics podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I am super excited because I had the opportunity to experience something incredible that you brought to your church, Harvest Baptist Church. Is that right? Harvest, or is Harvest Bible
Harvest
Church?
Baptist Church, yes.
Baptist Church, yes.
We were thrilled to have you, too. You were so 100% all in.
Yes. Oh, I loved it. Oh, I loved every minute of it. So up in Natrona Heights, for those who are wondering where you are. And so, Linda, before we get into the Amazing Shake and what you kind of got kicked off at the school up there at Harvest Bible Chapel or Church, I want to get a little bit of your background. So I know that you spent 6 years on staff at the church there. Now you're more in kind of a consulting role in a lot of different areas, and maybe potentially a consultant in all sorts of places around the country, as we talked about when we first had lunch. And I know you were at Alcoa for 20 years. So give us a little bit of background of your professional life and your faith life. And maybe I'd love to hear when you discovered your entrepreneurial kind of bent.
Right. So I have, as you said, I was at Alcoa for 20 years. However, before that, because I in my retirement ages. So I've had a lot of experience, right? I did a lot of different jobs, always in customer service. I love being with people, love helping people. That's kind of my thing. It's almost to a fault,
That's
where it's
so
like, okay,
surprising. That is so surprising. You're
I
so
want to do more.
relational.
How can I help you? How can I
Yeah.
help you?
Jeff Dougherty with Allstate Insurance has the distinction of being the very first sponsor of the Redemptive Economics podcast, and I couldn't be happier to promote his services. I've known Jeff for many years now, both as his pastor and friend, and man, I can say with confidence that he is a man of strong faith who aligns well with the Redemptive Economics values. So reach out to Jeff. He can offer you options for a wide variety of coverage and services. He's committed to helping Pittsburgh residents assess their immediate and long-term needs and choose options that will help you achieve your goals. When you want to explore options for protecting your home, personal property, or financial future, Jeff Dougherty is your guy. You'll find Jeff's contact information in the show notes. Hey, go grab a cup of coffee with him, get to know him, even if it's just to review your current coverage in case you need to make adjustments. And I promise you're going to love Jeff every bit as much as I do.
It's not that I know all the things, but I've experienced a lot in these many years. So I did a lot of different things. Then I went to Alcoa, and again in customer service, and I was in procurement. So it was pretty cool there. And I think I told you that, about 20 years into my career, and I'd gone to Harvest Baptist Church for 20 some years.
Okay.
So I had a lot of experience there. We had a new pastor come in, and about a year into his career at Harvest, I'd say, as the main pastor, he called me at work one day and just said, would you be interested, and I've quoted this to you,
Yeah.
in coming to work for me and make way less money and spend way more time? And I'm like, of course,
what an
come on,
ask.
yeah. Sign me up. So did that and came in basically, he even tells me my job title should have been Jack of all trades, because I love doing events. I love working with the kids. So I really came in fundraising and having events for the kids, having events for the church. And basically I did a lot of different things as far as making sure everybody had all of their clearances and, so you name it, I've touched everything. Maybe things moved on and off my plate, but I was always, okay, what else can I do? What more can I do? And I am more of one of those, give me 24 hours worth of work and I'm good with that. So about a year ago, he mentioned to me, a little over a year ago now, that his brother had done an event with their academy called The Amazing Shake. Now, The Amazing Shake stems from the Ron Clark Academy. So I've spent the last year and a half really working on having that at our academy. And it was something that I'd never heard of, and I'm sure you had never heard of it either until I approached you through a friend. Yep. And we just made it happen. We made it happen.
And sorry, real quick, what is the Ron Clark Academy? I'm not familiar.
So Ron Clark Academy is in Atlanta, Georgia, and this gentleman, and I think a partner of his, started an academy for, I guess his want is for low income or maybe possibly children that can't go to an academy where they can have really a lot of one-on-one training. He started this academy, and then I don't know where the Amazing Shake came out of that, but it's an event that really helps students with soft skills. Really, I would think it would work for adults too. I would love to see us go through, and it's really, the Amazing Shake really starts with a handshake, right? Yep. And teaching people how to interact with other people in general. Yep. And we see now that that's not something that people do all the time, right?
Yeah, right. So the Amazing Shake obviously was amazing. You went down and experienced this for yourself first.
I did.
You went down to Atlanta and checked it out. Tell me about that and your process of bringing it to the church.
Well, the first time I saw it was actually at my manager or Pastor Mark's brother's church in North Carolina. Okay. So I went through and watched. Theirs is a 5-day event. And I thought that's a little overwhelming to do 5 days of an event, but we did end up doing 1.5 days at ours. So I watched his whole event, took a lot of notes, and so that was in February, the year before we did ours. And I spent basically the year taking it apart and putting it back together for our academy. Okay. So that entailed finding over 75 volunteers. You saw the number of volunteers that we had. Yeah. Yep. Coming up with the events, as we'll see later on, hopefully in the video, where there's basically 5 events that we did, or 5 parts throughout it. And that included the gauntlet, which you were part of. And that included, just different pieces of it where we had different volunteers and the kids went through all of those events. And these are kids 5th to 8th grade. That was what we used, was that group, that demographic, because we felt that anybody before that was really too young to start. Not that we're not teaching them. We're already starting from the Amazing Shake. We're starting to work with those students and teaching even the kindergarten kids, shaking hands when they come in, talking to you, like looking in your eyes when they talk to you, and, completing sentences. So because of this, we've started doing that with the younger kids to prepare them. So when they come up to 5th grade, they have a little bit of an upper hand to say, okay, I get it. I know what's happening now. And then we felt students over 8th grade, to be blunt, just didn't care enough. They're off. They're, I don't want to say we've lost them, but almost, because now you're force feeding them. If you try to, get them into something like this. I'll tell you, when I did the training originally, I was stunned when we actually did the event, because when I did the training, the students just were bored with I don't want to do this. Why do I have to shake hands over and over and over again? Why do I have to get up in front of people and explain something to them that's not even real? So training was rough. So what I did is every month or so, sometimes twice a month, I would train with each of the groups of kids, each grade, and teach them the skills that I had seen they would need to learn to do well at the event. Yep. So Harvest Baptist
I'm sorry, real quick, but I want to interrupt for just a second, because I just want folks to think about this. So this was a year-long kind of preparation for that you did with the students, 5th through 8th grade,
right,
for the eventual competition, which was a day and a half long, which is what you call the Amazing Shake, that's the competition, right? So I just want to make sure I'm clarifying that for folks as they're thinking this through, because I don't think at the beginning I did a very good job of explaining the Amazing Shake, but I'll do that in the intro too. Yeah. So so you took a year working with these kids, preparing them for the event, and during that time, they're like, "What are we doing?"
Right, and I think that's what it was until they actually showed up on that day. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. Listen, and too, and I did the same thing. This doesn't make any sense. What do we just go for a day and go through and do these little practice runs? But that's what it was.
You did send me so we were connected by a friend, and then you sent me a video description of it from the Atlanta area, right, where they do the Amazing Shake.
Right.
And so I had some idea watching that. I had some idea that was very helpful, but still had like, what is this going to be like? Yeah, definitely still had questions. So anyway,
Even when I did it, the day we actually did it, I'm like, what is this going to be like? Because I'd seen it, right? So I had gone to the other academy and watched through theirs. I hadn't gone to Ron Clark's. I didn't go to Ron Clark's till after we ran our shake. So when we started, so here's the thing: they're telling you, okay, it's the Amazing Shake. And like the symbol is 2-hand shaking. So we're going to teach, again, it's teaching kids soft skills, just generally communicating. I would explain to the kids, you need an elevator speech, right? Yeah. And this is always something that we've taught in corporate, is what happens when you're in the elevator with the president of the company. You have 2 choices, right? Here's your 2 choices. You can stand there and pretend he's not in the elevator, or you can reach out and say, hey, my name's Linda, Mr. Whoever or Mrs. Whoever, and explain. So guess what? And this, when you're climbing the corporate ladder, who do you want to touch base with? That's your number one. And how do you do that if you don't know how to properly shake someone's hand? And there is a proper method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Absolutely.
look someone in the eye when you're talking to them. If you
Yep.
can't look someone in the eye and have a little 2 or 3 sentence speech, hey, I work in accounting, I worked for this person, just wanted to introduce myself. People just don't or can't or don't have the confidence to do it.
Yep.
So the Amazing Shake helps students. We're bridging that gap, right? We're teaching you to take what you probably have back here somewhere and use it.
Joe Hodoba and Hodoba Consulting is who I use for my promotional and marketing needs. Joe is a seasoned professional with 2 decades of experience in the dynamic realms of sales and marketing. Throughout Joe's journey, he's witnessed the ebb and flow of businesses, understanding intimately what it takes to navigate the fine line between success and failure. His diverse background spans industries from logistics to banking and advertising, giving him a comprehensive view of the entrepreneurial struggle. And I can say that from experience, he understands us. Those of us who are entrepreneurs. In every role, his focus has remained unwavering, driving business development, spearheading impactful marketing strategies, and fostering sustainable growth. Plus, when you work with Joe, you will learn a ton through the process. I speak from experience. So reach out to Joe today. His contact information is in the show notes, and you will be so glad you did. Absolutely. That's a great way of saying it. So it's something that we know that you've got it in you. Everybody has that gift that God has given you, that wealth of knowledge or that expertise or whatever. And it's about interacting with someone in such a way that allows you to bring that forward and bring it on display for the person to see. I like that thought there. And I had, when I was in, let me think here, it was freshman or sophomore year of high school, we had a teacher, I'll never forget this teacher. She was amazing. And she taught us business soft skills, basically. We had to come up, we had to go through a job interview. She literally taught us how to shake hands, actually. But this was an anomaly at the time. This is in the mid-90s. But I remember, and to this day, I still remember this, to lock those thumbs together with the person, you know what I mean? Get in there and lock those thumbs and then grip. And to this day, there's so many times where I if I'm not paying attention, the person grabs my fingers, I'll say, wait a second, let's try that again. I did a terrible job. Let's do this again. But but so many kids do not get that in their lives. They don't get that introduction of how to do that.
No, and that's now students go to school and they learn the basics, and sometimes they don't even learn that. But to me, these soft skills have more approachability to a business owner, and that's part of what we're trying to do. So let's say we want these students are going to most likely are going to go into the job world. Maybe not, but most likely they're going to at some point in their life. And, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine just this Sunday, and he interviews a lot of people. He owns a company, and he said the person showed up in basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and a hat.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but it gets better. Handed him the resume, and my friend is looking at the resume, and he said, well, I don't really feel like the interviewee, I don't really feel like I'm qualified for this job. And the interviewer said, well, look at all these things that you have. Oh, I had somebody else write that resume. I didn't even do half of that stuff. Okay, so that's reality, Mike, right?
Oh my
Is that
gosh.
not reality anymore? Because we use, listen, AI's out there. AI can write our resume. They can tell us all the things to do, but it's not real. So when we teach the Amazing Shake, that's real. That is me really shaking your hand. And that is me really looking at you and confidently being able to talk with you. If you can't look someone in the eye, I mean, you know this, it's kind of hard to trust some people that can't look you in the eye. It's like, are you really telling me? So what we want to do is give them a leg up when they go out into the world, even if it's not for a job interview, even if it's just, I mean, think about it. When you return something to the store, it's like, you feel like, okay, maybe, I mean, most people would just keep things because they're too embarrassed to walk up and ask for, I had a granddaughter that wouldn't want to walk up after she got a hamburger at a stand to get up and can I ask for ketchup? No, I'll just eat it without ketchup.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Does this make sense?
Yep.
No,
Yep.
you want to
Ugh.
be able to do that and walk up to people and actually talk with them.
The younger generation right now, I mean, they've grown up. This is so important because they've grown up on devices,
Yes.
distracted, and they don't know how to interact interpersonally as well. You hear this all the time, especially with folks who are hiring new employees, and this is it's epidemic now,
Right.
which is why I love what you're doing. And by the way, so you stepping out to do this, and you've mentioned this several times. You didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
You had seen something, and you were working. You took a year
Yeah.
training these kids, mostly against their will,
Right.
right? And because this is what I love about this, Linda. I love your entrepreneurial spirit. This is what God calls us to as entrepreneurs. The creation mandate, as I've said over and over again on this show, is an entrepreneurial call. And so entrepreneurship means, and I think I may have mentioned this at our lunch that we did, but to enter into or to dive out into the deep or the water, if you will, entree, and then preneur is kind of like prende, to comprehend or to grasp new knowledge and information. And so you're venturing out into the unknown, and with the goal of learning through experimentation. And that's exactly what you did. And to go through a year of experimentation like that, number one, I give your pastor a ton of credit. I think Pastor Mark, right? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ton of credit for being willing to dive into this with you, engage this with you. I'm sure you had to pivot in certain ways. I'm sure you were uncertain about how it was going to go, of course. But I'm telling you, God's hand was so on it. When I was there, I was so grateful to be there, so grateful that I was asked to be a volunteer and to watch this thing happen for the first time. I feel very honored because I think this is going to be incredible and have a huge impact around the Pittsburgh region. And so, anyway, I give you a ton of credit for all the effort and work you put into it.
Thanks. Thanks. Well, I appreciate you doing this with this podcast just to get it out there because I would love to see this moved into public schools. A lot of it is private schools that it's in because they're small, right? So Harvest
Right.
Baptist Academy is about 300 students, and we had between fifth to eighth grade, we had about 105 last
Yeah.
year. So I would
Yeah.
say we'd probably have about the same number. So it's a relatively small group, and you could
Mm-hmm.
do it. If somebody wanted to do it in another school, they could do it with just 1, 2 grades, depending on how big they are. Because even with that many students, we were rushed to get 3 rounds in
Yeah.
on a Monday,
Yeah.
and depending on how much time you want to take to do it.
Yeah.
But, when we walked in that day and the students walked in, so I had said to them, you can dress however you want to. So we're a uniform school. So everybody has to wear uniform. I said to them, you could dress within, the uniform parameters. You don't have to wear a uniform, but you have to wear your
Ah.
skirts at a certain length. And,
Yeah.
so I said, you can wear whatever you want to. So sky's the limit, come in your ball gown if you want to,
Oh, and they
and
did.
they did, they brought it
Yeah.
and they lined up there and were so excited because one of the things that I said to all of them, and this is true in life in general, every one of you, the 104 students that we have, any one of you can win this. And you know why? Because this is not something you had to go out and learn to do. This is something you had.
Hmm.
All you had to do was express it. And you had,
Oh, that's great.
35 opportunities in the first round to talk to 35 different people and show yourself and show
Yeah.
that I learned this. I was able to take what I had and hone it to learn how to make it to a handshake correctly, to learn how to look at you. I mean, come on, you don't have to have a special skill to look somebody in the eye, do you? I mean, I guess you do.
You just need confidence.
Right.
That's
And that's
right.
what we want to build with them is this
Right.
confidence. So when they do go into an interview or they go somewhere where they have to present, college, you go in and you have to present different things in college courses. I want them to get up there and remember in their head, I learned this when I was in fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade.
Yeah.
I learned how to look out at the audience.
Yeah.
It was funny because some of the training I would do with them, and I would have them take some random thing in the room and have them pretend it was something else. And they invented it. And they had to tell everybody, so it was learning. I mean, it is. It's not
Yeah.
instilled in everybody, that confidence level.
Sure.
I feel so grateful that my gift is to be able to talk with people. At one point in my life, it wasn't, but I have learned through, excuse me, different things that I've done. Here's what you need to do. And I'm a goal setter. So I'm always like, okay, I can do this. Even if I can't do it, I'm going to make it happen. And I love learning new things. And that's what I wanted to share with the kids. Let's learn this together. Let's hone our skills together. And I can make listen, the person that took second place, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said, no way. I could have looked at those 100 kids and I would have said, okay. And you don't want to be, of course, you're not telling the kids this, but you're looking at them, you're like, okay, they're going to be in the top 10. They're going to be in the top 20. These kids have absolutely no chance. But that wasn't the case. Those kids had absolutely no chance, had the same chance as everybody else. And some of them came in and brought it. Some of them still had because somebody's always going to be a little bit better, right? You know, you can't, 100 kids can't win. So we had a top 3 at the end. But like I said, to me, just watching those kids line up and that little bit, if I gave them a little step up in confidence, every one of them, that was one time. We do it again. It'll be another time and you'll get a little more confident. And to me, like I said, you take this out into the world, that little bit in your 5th to 8th grade school term. It's just that little bit that you need.
Seneca Hills Bible Camp and Retreat Center is a hidden gem located just north of Pittsburgh in Venango County. Personally, when I attended their men's weekend, I was blown away by the beauty of the surroundings, the quality of the facilities, and the superiority of the cuisine. This is not your typical camp food, folks. Seneca Hills hosts year-round retreats and conferences, but their true passion is summer camp, where campers, both kids and adults, escape the everyday tyranny of screens and distractions and immerse themselves in 250 acres of God's gorgeous creation. Go to senecahills.org or call my good buddy, Executive Director Lyndon Fowler, to learn more about how Seneca Hills Bible Camp and Retreat Center can help you, your kids, or your business create unforgettable memories, meaningful friendships, and a deeper understanding of God's love. And I saw their confidence grow through the process, through the competition. I think it is interesting because as I'm thinking about it, hearing about your perspective, and some background to it, I think there probably were kids that were very hesitant as they lined up getting ready to go in, right? But as they began to interact with everybody, and I want to go through the different aspects too. I want you to share about the day itself and through each kind of give us examples of what the gauntlet looked like and the different ways they had to interact with us. Because it was so compelling and so inspiring. But I do think they as they interacted with people, I think they got more comfortable. A lot of them did.
Right.
So, okay. So take us through. So the first competition, kids are lined up at the door. We're in a big gym, right? Big basketball gym.
Right.
And explain, was that the gauntlet?
Yes, that was the gauntlet.
Okay,
yeah. So that was
explain
the
that
first
for
round.
us and give us some examples.
So, and let me tell you, when I was doing training, and remember, they don't know what they don't know. I was the only one that had ever seen it. So you're telling them to train, and they're like, so I'm going to have to get up in front of people, and I'm going to have to sell something that I have. No, that was the training aspect of it, right? So now they go in, so the pressure's on because the gauntlet is 1 minute round. So it is 35 events, and you have 1 minute to get this judge to score you. So there's no time. The gong went off every minute. At 1 minute, you had to move on to the next person. So we started it off. I tried to make it as simple as possible. So our principal, Mrs. Tammy Burr, who was awesome, she was our first station, and she actually played a guidance counselor kind of, and she would hold their hand and say, "Hi, Susie, how you feeling today? You're going to be good." Give them a little bit of, right off the bat, some confidence. So it wasn't any pressure of, do I have to answer a question right away? No, it was just making them feel comfortable and making them understand. That was their first, to understand what each of these events was going to be like every time they walked to. So that was our first one. Like I said, she was awesome. She talked it through. So now they're like, okay, I can do this. Mrs. Burr said I could do this. So they go to the next one, and it was, I think this one was, what's your favorite book that you ever read? Or something to that. Some of them were like that. So it was still simple because everybody has an answer to that, right? So you could tell them. And so the whole time, this is what they have to think. And this is what I kept impressing. Listen, every person you talk to, you have to remember, shake their hand, look them in the eye, and just talk. And I explained this to them in the beginning. I don't care what you say. It has not, what you say, you're not going to be judged on. What you're going to be judged on is how you're confident and can express yourself and can speak loudly. Because some of those kids talk like this, you know?
Right.
So it's like, okay, speak loud enough that they can hear you. And we made it fun. So the next one, they ask, tell me a dad joke. So I did give them a little bit. I gave them like 2 or 3 that I told them what the actual, the station was going to be. Yeah. And you have to be prepared with a dad joke. So how easy is that? Come on. I gave you the answer. Gave you the answer. All you have to do is speak it. Okay. Yep. So they would walk up, and the gentleman that I had was awesome. I mean, he's the dad joke king. So I really tried to, and that's the other thing. I had 75 judges. I had to place them in the right station, because if you had some fuddy-duddy that didn't want to have any fun with the kids, and you told them a dad joke, and he'd be like, okay, here's your score. Okay.
Right. Oh,
so,
gosh.
I had the perfect guy. So they had a sheet, and they would take that sheet, and in that same 1 minute, they had to score the kids, and the kids had to ask for a score. They had to ask for a score. If they didn't ask for their score, they lost points. And they got 20 points for each station, up to 20 points.
And by the way, we felt pressure as judges as well. Just FYI, if you're, because you had to be thinking through, like, in a minute, what am I going to score this? And they're done maybe gives you 10 seconds left to actually score them. It's like, if that, right.
Right.
So you're under some pressure too.
So we did. So it was fun. Yeah. So I know. And a lot of people said that to me. Wow. Now that I get it, now everybody wants to go back and be a judge. Now that I understand it, because there's like, I don't know. What do I give this? This is the first one. Do I get, and they just, I would say there was as much pressure on the judges as there was on the students. But then we did one. So it was really fun. We would do one that was, do you believe in Bigfoot? And we had, so I put a little effort and spent a little money and bought a big cardboard Bigfoot. So they walked up, and the person that I had there is just, again, perfect. And she would say, so do you believe in Bigfoot? And she would converse with them, but it really was up to the student to start any conversation and allow them to speak back to you. They couldn't just take over and talk for 1 minute. They had to know there's a conversation and 2 people talk. So we did that one. We did one where they had to invent something. We did one where they picked up a phone and had a job interview, a phone interview.
Oh, yeah. I love the one, too, where near where I was, where they had 3 items on a table in front of them. And it was the kind of Shark Tank. And this is where I got to meet Matt DeHart, by the way.
Yes, who was awesome.
Yes, yep. He's amazing. And he's doing incredible things, too. And I know he's going to be continuing to work with you in some way and implementing this himself. Yeah. But, so they had to pick up an item, a hammer, a package of markers, and a couple other things. They had to choose which one they wanted to pick up, and they had to try to sell it to Matt and get an investment from him, basically. So Right.
Yeah, that one, I love the news one. Which was yours? What did you do?
Mm-hmm. I was just the kind of director of traffic.
Oh, that's right. Yes, in that one. Yes. So you got to see a lot of that.
Yes, I loved my position because I get to watch everybody else and their interaction with all these other people.
How about the red carpet one?
Oh, that was cool.
Where they walked up and she would ask them, and what are you wearing? Or who are you wearing? And the kids were like, what do you mean, who am I wearing? So sometimes they didn't even get, the reasoning behind what we were saying. But they were so confident watching those kids go through. It was pretty impressive. And I want to talk a little bit about, so the judges I had in that round, there were 35 judges, 35-ish.
Yeah.
It was really hard when I started getting judges, right? Because I'm trying to go to business, because our ideal would be businessmen and people in the community that A, didn't know our students, and B, had those skills, right? Yeah. We want confident people to come in and teach our kids confidence by how they judge them. But one of the hard things for this year was to find enough business people. Like I said, I needed 75 people. So friends and friends of friends, Mike.
Yep.
I was grasping everywhere. I mean, our church, we had a lot of church members this first year, and I love our church members, and they were all into it, but I really want to have a lot of business people.
Yeah.
So this first year, it wasn't that. I would say it was about 70-30. I probably had about 30% business owners, and about the other 70% were either friends. Listen, I tried to bring, and all of my family members, they all helped me. We did not have them judge because we had students in there, right? So you want to be careful. You don't want anybody, even with me, I was like so hands off. Don't ask me. I am not judging. This is all these people, because you know, come on, let's face it, nepotism is real,
Absolutely.
So you want to be careful when you're pulling your judges that you have very impartial people, to the extent that you can, But we did try to have as many business people. And as you mentioned, I loved having Matt because he's just in the mix of it. He's been involved in the Amazing Shake before. So he was good. So that was the gauntlet, 35 stations of random questions. And, it could be anything from soup to nuts. And the really fun part of it for me was creating those stations. Of course, I watched, Ron Clark Academy has all kinds of videos. Of course, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I did pull some of those, but I pulled some that were more pertain to our students, and just try to create them. So now, and you're creating an ambiance of it, right? It was a station. You went there and there was a red carpet. We had one where the kids had to hit a hole in one with a golf, a golf mat or whatever you want to call it, where they tried to hit into that hole. But it was that interaction with the gentleman that had that station that he was able to score them. So it wasn't just, they just didn't walk up and grab. No, they had to have some interaction with, they had to shake his hand. Remember, it was those three things: shake your hand, look at them in the eye, and have confidence when you're talking to them. That was the whole thing.
100 kids went through
104 kids went through those 35
stations. Okay. Truth at Work executive peer advisory groups are a life and business changing experience. Trust me, I've experienced it myself. It made such an impact on me that I stepped out to become a chapter president myself. At Truth at Work, we're dedicated to helping Christian business leaders who feel isolated and overwhelmed. Our community of like-minded peers are here to help leaders like you live out your faith in the marketplace and build your business on biblical principles. Christian business leaders are transformed through these peer advisory groups that apply biblical truth for living out our faith in all areas of life. If you'd like to learn more about Truth at Work, email me, Mike Hatch, at mhatch@truthatwork.org, or you can email my counterpart, Dave Hartman, at dhartman@truthatwork.org.
Yes.
Then I believe we take a break, I think? And then
there was a little bit of a break. I think we had lunch. So we had lunch for all the kids. Okay. I had another group there was my other volunteers, were people behind the scenes that made lunch and served lunch for them, right? So, it was a lot of people that that weren't even judging, they were just watching. And luckily they were our parents and people that couldn't possibly judge, So that was through the first round. Then we moved on to the second round.
Remind me though, did we narrow down at all after that first? Okay.
Yeah, we did. We went down, I believe we went down to 50 students. Okay. I pretty much broke in half the whole way through because it was hard, because I couldn't, as I said, Mount Nebo, the other school that I went to, they go over 5 days and they have some very cool events. I mean, at one point they have their top 2 students pick some of the other students that were in the event, and they run a restaurant. Right. We're not there yet.
That's so cool.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so neat.
So so I want to expand as we go.
Yeah.
So like I said, we did really 3 major rounds that day that you were there. So now we're down to 50 students. Okay. So it was by score. So I had another group of people, which how you came in, Keith is he was my lead statistician. Yeah. So they were serious and they scored, and it was like, here are the top 50 scorers. They get to move on. Are the kids disappointed? Because remember, all these kids that didn't want to do this, once they got there, they were excited for it.
Absolutely.
And you look at that and you don't make it. But guess what that does? Next year, now you know. You were a fifth grader. Now you know you're going to do it for 3 more years. Our eighth graders, that was their best shot. That was all there was. But that's okay because they still learn.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now they know. Next year, I know exactly what it is now. And I know I'll put forth that much more effort. And the kids, the top 50 or the lower 50 that didn't make it, they learned. And next year, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those top 50 didn't make it to, the bottom 50 don't make it to the top 50.
And word's going to get out among the students. Incoming fifth graders are going to hear all about it before they even get there.
Right. And so that's the thing. When you have fifth competing against eighth, that's also a tough thing. Hey, I'm in eighth grade. I should win this, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
So then we went to those top 50 out of the first 104, and we did work the room.
That's right. Work the room. Yes. This was so impressive.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And to watch, first of all, the people, I think our judges were impressed with our kids. I was impressed. I watched with the kids, and I was so impressed with them. Yeah. And so work the room was, we had now 50 students, and we had 25 judges. And they basically stood around the room and just stood there. And now those 50 students were tasked with, you go find somebody and you talk to them. And you can talk as long as you want to. We're not giving you that 1 minute. You can talk as long as you want to. If you find one person and you want to talk, it was 20 minutes, you want to talk the whole time with them, that's fine. But here's how your score came out. The amount of people that you talked with and the score that you got from each of them. All right. So you could have maybe, and I said this to the kids, you can talk to all 25 judges. If your talk is, hey, Mike, how are you? Okay, got to move on. What's your score going to be? Yeah. Not very high, right? So you had to juggle this. I talked to them for a couple minutes, but I need to talk to other judges because my score is based on the number of judges plus my score from each judge.
Right.
So, and that was pretty cool to watch them. And, like I said, this video, I hope we're able to show
we will,
those kids, talking to them. And they were intent. They were intent.
So the pressure is
talking.
Yeah, the pressure is in a sense is to have quality conversations with people, basically, which I love that. I love that. So, okay.
And talking with people that you don't know.
Yeah.
You're talking with people that you so what do I talk to them about?
Right.
I don't even, what am I even talking to them?
And I love this too. So they would come up to us, they would interact with us, introduce themselves. They would have to introduce themselves. And again, same thing. They have to ask for a score when they're done. But also what I loved was they could go to somebody who's already being talked to by another student and learn how to interject into the conversation while the other kid who's talking to me, who started out talking to me before the person comes over, the other kid to interject, they could, if they wanted to, introduce their friend. Hey, this is so-and-so. So those social skills in terms of being able to break into a conversation, introduce a friend to somebody, oh my gosh, there's so much value in that.
Right.
And I loved watching that play out.
Right. Yeah, that was fun to watch. And when you watch it on the video, see, I was kind of walking around, but when you watch it on the video and you see those kids staring into that judge's eye, you're like, oh, they got it. They got it. And they're interested in it, So, and typically those 50 kids that have gone to that level now do have a little bit of, obviously, because they've gone through that gauntlet and now gotten here, they're the students that do have that, a little bit of that naturally, right? Yep. So as you watch them, but not all of them. And they would, you could tell they were nervous, but they just did. I thought they just did a great job. Yeah. And it was fun listening to them and the things that they would talk about, just random subjects.
Yeah. Well, and you trained them to ask about the person they were talking to. So that was the coolest thing, to see how these kids took an active interest in me and wanting to know about me. Like, I had some of the best conversations with kids I've ever had during that time.
And that part of it was, so they would say, one of the things that they were directed to do was say their name and ask the judges' names. And some of them had a hard time with that, remembering, it's all these steps that they have to remember, even though it was repetitive. But because you want to have a personal relationship, even if it's only a couple of minutes, and say, well, what do you do? Well, how did you come to be part of the Amazing Shake? It was things like that, I trained them to say, and I don't know if they did a lot of that, but you could tell they were really interacting with the people and were interested in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the second round. 50 kids went through that.
Yes. And now we cut it in half again.
So
I think we actually did 30 because I had enough judges. So I kind of snugged it a little to make it, have a few more kids, because I wanted as many kids as possible to go through every one of those rounds so they could feel what it was like, because that was the experience. That's the learning part of it. You can have it in your head that this is what I'm supposed to do, but it's the actual activity of it that helped them to learn it. Yeah. So I think I changed it. I had originally said 25, and I'm like, you know what, we'll pull in 30, just have more kids involved. And then we did, and this was a tough one. Circle of Doom. So just the heading of it, right? Just the heading of Circle of Doom. Okay, what am I walking into?
Right.
And as soon as they walked in, they saw why it was Circle of Doom, because we were so fortunate to have many police officers and attorneys, and you were involved in that one as well.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody that they did not know. And those people so they're in a circle, and the students take turns going to each of those. I think we had 28 or 30 judges, how many ever we had. And Pastor Mark, Pastor Mark Likens, he's the lead pastor at the church. He was one of them too, which the kids, he's like a big guy, right?
He's a big deal.
It's that elevator speech one with the manager, it's the same thing.
Yes.
And he was hard on them because he knew what the event was. And some of the people were a little bit harder that knew, and it's a police officer too. So they were each judge was given a question. And they were, moral questions. So now you have to say something like, okay, hey, I pulled your mom over for speeding. Should I give her a ticket?
Wow.
Okay, so now you're like, wait a second, it's my mom. I don't want you to give her a ticket. But it didn't make any difference if you said you didn't want them to give her a ticket. It was that interaction. And then saying, well, I think you shouldn't give her a ticket because of X. Or, that's your job, give her the ticket, or what have you. But again, remember, it had nothing to do with what they said. It was how they presented themselves.
I will always remember, I think, my question that I asked kids was that at what point would you say something to an authority figure, basically, if you see a friend doing something wrong or unethical or immoral or whatever? And man, it was so interesting getting their answers, because you could see that kind of, because the way it was worded too was, there's this idea that snitches get stitches, right?
Yes.
So if you snitch, you're going to get it from everybody else. And so basically the question was, at what point do you throw that out the window and you go ahead and share what a friend is doing that's not right?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And the students did not know the question. So they were, okay, so now again, we're down to the 1 minute rounds again. We're back to we went from 1 minute to unlimited time. Now we're back to the gong sound. Okay. So you have 1 minute after you get that question to tell why. So now you're in your head, you're contemplating what's the answer and present it. So we're back to that gong. So that was a fun round. Like I said, I was so appreciative. We had a lot of the police officers and that worked out really well. So now we're down to 25.
Redemptive Economics is completely listener-supported and dependent on the contributions of listeners. If you resonate with the message of Redemptive Economics and want to support the cause, there are 3 ways you can partner with us. The first is you can subscribe to the podcast for $5 a month and unlock all the amazing interviews and content without the interruption of advertisements. Secondly, you can donate to Redemptive Economics, either making a one-time gift or supporting monthly to help us offset the production costs and reach more people for the sake of the gospel. Lastly, if you're a business, you can choose to advertise with us. Right now, we're offering a limited number of spots for sponsorships for the first year at $150 per month or $1,800 for the year. I would be so grateful for your partnership. Check out the show notes for all the links that will lead to more information about how to support our mission to empower Christian entrepreneurs. Yep. Okay. Down to 25. And through going through the doom loop. And then, real quick, one other quick observation. I was talking to somebody. Who was I talking to? We were having a really great conversation. We were talking about how God forms us and sanctifies us and grows our faith. And one of the main ways he does that is by putting us in very uncomfortable situations where we have to be stretched, where we have to depend on him in ways we didn't prior to that, you know? And what I love about this is it's a great, I mean, it's a microcosm with regards to that. These kids are getting an opportunity, as hard as these situations are, they're given an opportunity to enter into a situation within a safe environment where they're loved and cared for, and to exercise that and to be stretched. And that that's what kids need. More kids need that, right?
Yeah. I'm hoping, and you know, it's almost like even talking with people when you're trying to give the salvation message to people, or think about it. You know how hard it is to witness to people. You just don't walk
Absolutely.
up to anybody. So this is like one step to being able just to talk to people. And then you take it to the next level. So it was all around just good for them. So now we're down to 10 kids.
Okay. So you narrowed it from after that. You narrowed it down to 10 kids. Yes. And I remember, I think Mark was the one who announced after each of these sessions who the next round of people.
He did. Yeah. Pastor Mark did all the announcing because, you know, that was the fun part. You know, you got to get the lead pastor some fun sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So he got to announce the kids, and that was fun. And he does interact with them so well anyway, going into the academy. And that was cool. So then the top 10 got to go to a very nice restaurant called The Lot. We'll give them a little plug because they helped us out. And we had 10 students, and I believe I had 6 or 8 judges. So now there's 10 students, and then Pastor Rousey, and he is our academy administrator. He came and he was one of the judges. So they sat amongst the students while they were eating breakfast. Okay, so let's face it. It's never easy to eat in front of anybody. I don't care if you have the best manners or the best soft skills. Now you want to eat, right? But it's even hard to eat. Sometimes I know I go out with somebody, like job interviews at lunch interviews are the worst thing ever. I'm never going to eat anything. I have to spend too much time talking to you, right? But the kids, so they're young, so they're okay to eat, you know, so they're good to eat, but they had to know how to use their utensils, you know, how to talk with people, how to interrupt people if they needed to, how to interact with the wait staff, right? So that was all interesting to watch that. So I appreciated Pastor Rousey being there and several of the other judges. Like I said, I think we had 6 to 8, and they were different people in some cases that hadn't already been. So this was kind of new to them too. But I'd given them the rules. Everybody got a sheet of paper well before, and they were able to review what they had to do in every judging aspect. So that was fun, though, because I got to watch them. And then Pastor Rousey got to announce the top 5.
Yes.
So,
yes. And when we show the video, you'll see there's the look on some of their faces as they win. Oh, my gosh. It's
and
priceless.
You know what I loved even more than that is those students being excited for the ones that got to go, even though they didn't.
Yes,
I wanted them to have
too.
enthusiasm. Yep. Right. I want you to have enthusiasm. These are your friends. You want to be excited for them, right? Yeah. So then that top 5 got to go to Fox TV studios and spend the morning the next day. Yeah. So, and that was a big deal, right? To be able to leave the academy and, you know, we stopped and grabbed breakfast, or we'd already had breakfast. So we went, I'm on the same day. That was the next morning. Okay. So they had breakfast and then they were able to, those top 5 got to go to the studio.
And and so they got to be in front of the green screen. They got to meet some of the, I don't know who it was. Were there anchors that they got to meet? It was some of the talent. Yeah, some of the talent there. Yeah. So one of the one gentleman that was with them. So they got to pretend to do a story, and each of them got to do that. So there was 5 of them that got to do that.
And then what was really nice is I was able to get scores from Fox. The Fox personnel gave me scores,
Nice.
which is how
That's
I came
great.
up with the top three. Yeah. And
Wow.
that was the winning group, those top three.
And then, okay,
Yeah.
so I know that there is a national competition as
There is.
well.
Yeah, that's at
Um,
Ron Clark.
yeah, right. So I forget. Did those top three get to go, or was this
They did
still
not
kind of
this year.
okay?
Listen, this
Yeah,
year
yeah,
we just wanted to get
right.
we
It's
wanted to
proof of
get through.
concept. Proof of
Right.
concept. I get it.
And I'll tell you, and some of these kids, it would have been hard for them because most of these kids that are going to the Ron Clark Academy have done this over, their schools have done it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
didn't want to right off the bat take three kids and have none of them make anything, you know? Not
Yeah.
that I'm saying we could take three kids and they may never make it to the, but
Yeah.
I want to give them a fighting chance, right?
Totally. That makes
So,
sense.
yep.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And they don't know that necessarily. For them,
no.
the
And
competition
you know
was what
what?
it
Hey,
was. They're not
listen,
missing anything.
and maybe they could have. Yeah, they don't even know anything about that part of it.
Right.
And maybe maybe I'm not giving them enough credit that they could listen. Watching them, I didn't give them enough credit for what they did that day.
Yeah,
You
man, they're
know,
amazing.
I mean, it
Yeah.
was crazy. But so I was fortunate enough I did go to the global at the Ron Clark Academy. I ended up going to the global event.
Okay.
And there were, I don't even know how many hundreds of students. And they were from, I mean, all over. I think some were from, I can't remember what other country. We had a couple from two other countries. And actually the person that won, I can't remember where she was from. I think maybe in London or something like, because they're coming, it is truly global. The majority of them are from the United States. But I don't know how long they've been doing this. I want to say maybe
Yeah.
in the 10 years or something.
Yeah.
But to grow to that level and have that many students, yeah. And
Yeah.
I will say one thing about their event that impressed me so much is the MC of the event was the one that had won the Amazing Shake from the year before.
Oh, that's
It was
perfect.
It just gives me shivers.
Yeah,
how
right.
well. So he was a ninth grader now, and he was the MC for the whole event. And he did a phenomenal job. Yeah, I was so impressed by him. And that's what we can give our kids, right? That's what we can give these students. You can do anything that you put your mind to. I say, as long as you don't have to have some specific education, all the rest of it's in you. We're just trying to help bring it out.
Man, that is so cool. Gosh, that is so cool. Okay, so I want to play the video now. Now that our listeners and watchers on YouTube have heard us describe it, I want to show that it's a 3.5-minute video. Definitely worth it. So stick with us here, and I'm going to share my screen. All right, so here's the video from the Amazing Shake at Harvest Baptist Church. Oh my
It just
goodness.
it just I get extremely emotional when I watch this because I'm just so impressed with our kids. I just
Absolutely.
I just get very excited for them, and they just did such a good job. Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
if you're not inspired by that, oh my gosh, your filming crew did an amazing job with that video. Absolutely incredible. And again, I just can't get over that this was the unknown. You really ventured into the unknown, but you were led obviously by your heart for these kids, and that is so inspiring. Man, that is so inspiring. I just think this is something that should be done all over Western PA. I mean, all
Yeah,
over the country,
I
but at
wish
least for
that
us here in.
and it's funny. I love that our kids did it, but as I'm doing this, I'm like, everybody needs to do this.
Oh
This is
yeah,
such an advantage for our students, you
yep,
know. And I'm just like everybody I talk to. I talk about the amazing shit. If people got sick of it, I'm sure. But I'm like, you don't know what we're doing for these students by doing something like this. Yeah, it was exciting for me. I jump everything I do. I jump in
yeah,
2 feet. That's how I'm going to
yep.
do it. Because we'd even talked about, well, maybe we'll do a smaller version. My husband watching me said, maybe you should just do like one round. I said, honey, I can't. I'm all in. I'm all in. So I'm not going to maybe do it to as much as they did, but
Yeah,
I'm going to do
yeah,
as much as I possibly can. Yeah. So,
absolutely. Well,
yeah.
Linda, oh my gosh, so well done. Man, I just your enthusiasm is infectious. Your love for the kids comes through in huge ways. You're such a light, and I'm excited about the potential for other business leaders now to jump
Yes.
in. So look, couple things. Obviously, there are going to be people who are listening here that they're like, man, I want my kids to do this, right? Or I'd love to implement this in my school. So, and then I'm thinking about the other business leaders who are listening to this who are thinking, oh my gosh, I would totally volunteer for this. And let me
That's
just
my
say,
wish. That's my
yeah,
wish that we get more business people.
yeah. So let's start there maybe because and I'll share just with our listeners about my experience doing this. It was a long day. I was there the whole time though. And you don't technically have to be there the whole time.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you have enough volunteers, people can come to just one of those, either the
Rounds.
gauntlet or
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
rounds. And so you don't necessarily have to be there all day. I would say though, if they have the opportunity and they really want to get a feel for it, I would encourage you to do it all day. You will absolutely be just fried by the end of it, okay? But your face will be so sore from smiling after watching these kids. Your heart will be
Yes.
so full when you leave this thing. It will be such an encouragement to you, especially for folks in my generation and above who are maybe feeling, I don't know, like a loss of hope when it comes to the younger generation. This will
Hmm.
absolutely boost your optimism about that. So, okay, so if folks want to volunteer, when is the next event coming? How do they do that?
It will be so they can contact me directly, and they can contact me. Probably easiest is my email,
Mm-hmm.
which is linda.miller
Okay.
at harvestbaptist.info. That's probably the easiest way that I'll catch it and make sure that I have a record of it. And the next one, I'm looking at my calendar, it's
Okay.
February 17th.
Okay.
February 17th. And as you said, you can come to one round. If you just want to, if you're able to do one round, and I'm sure it'll be more than one day again, so we can work around your schedule. One of the reasons we went with February 17th is a lot of businesses are closed.
Mm.
And when I say that, not a lot, but banks
Yeah.
and I'll tell
Sure.
you, a lot of companies are very willing to give you PTO for that time because of what
Oh
you're doing.
yeah. Right.
So keep in mind that you can do that. And as you mentioned, you stayed the whole day. I so appreciate it. I'll say this about Mike. I didn't know Mike before the day of the amazing shake. But he was so willing. So you're okay. Mike, can you run this? Can you be in this round? Can you do this here? And
Yeah.
you said, I'll stay the whole day, which
Yeah.
for me was just a huge help for people that were willing, like you said, oh, I'm all
Sure.
in now. I've
Yeah.
watched
Oh.
part of this. I want to be here the whole day.
Yep.
It was just so helpful because honestly, at the end, I was short of a couple of judges and I wanted to add a couple and I just, hey, you're here. Can you do this?
Yep.
But again, if you can come for 2 hours, that's
Yeah.
really enough for one of the rounds. And it's just so helpful and it's good for the kids to interact with business people or local
Yep.
community leaders. If you're what do you want to call it? Even a tax collector, we'll take anybody that's in any kind of
Any
role.
IRS agents out there listening?
Right, sure. Come on in.
Oh,
And we'll give you an appropriate question to ask
gosh.
too. Anything
Yeah.
like that. I would love to see, it'd be great if I could get the governor or even
Oh,
some
yeah.
municipal, leaders, anything like
Yeah.
that. I would really like to go from my 70-30, as I mentioned, to
Yeah.
100%, outsiders, which include the business owners and, community leaders. That would be awesome. So I'm here. Email me. I would, I'd love to talk with you. And if you're not sure, call me, I'll just say, call me. I want to know more about this.
Yeah, that's great. And I would say too, like so you're busy, first of all. So if you're a volunteer, you're very busy. Okay. You are focused and you've got some pressure on you a little bit, but yeah. I like that. I like that aspect of it. But there are moments here and there where you could do a little bit of networking, meet some other business leaders, or like you said, people in I want to say politics, but kind of in government, things
even
like
community leaders,
like that. Community leaders. I just think that's man. So there is that I guess fringe benefit, but don't go in making that your primary motive. Absolutely not, because you'll be disappointed because you won't get to meet everybody, because I'm telling you, you're going to be busy. But I believe that when we step out in a self-sacrificial way and give of our time like this, that God will go ahead of us and obviously do amazing things for the kids, but I think He'll also do amazing things to you as a business leader too. I think there's a great deal of value that we can take away from watching this whole process, experiencing it. It's kind of like when I was a pastor, or even not a pastor, but when I would go to a wedding. Anytime my wife and I go to a wedding, it is a reminder, a really profound reminder about the commitment we made to one another. And you watch another couple go through that experience together. I always leave weddings, especially, from the message, from watching everything happen, I leave them inspired and often feeling like, man, this, like, our marriage is super important. We need to be intentional about investing in it.
Right.
And I think it's similar with this in a sense. Like when you go to this and you volunteer your time, I think it will give you a new perspective again on your business and what you're trying to accomplish in the marketplace. So anyway, for what that's worth, that's what I would say to folks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And then, okay, so Linda, I guess we'll leave it there for now, because it's one step at a time. But I'm sure people may have seen this and heard this, and they may very well want to reach out to you about, man,
good.
I might want to do it at my place, or I might want to do it myself. Like, what would you say to that person? Can they reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to answer any questions. I'm just one of these people that have done it. There are many places around that are doing it. Again, I want to say just a huge thank you and kudos to Ron Clark Academy and Ron Clark for starting this event. I mean, it's amazing to even the concept of it. Where did he come up with the concept? And then to run it. And if you would watch his, it was phenomenal this year. I was so pleased that I was able to attend and watch that. So that's very cool. And Pastor Mark Likens, our lead pastor, for even finding out about this and spending the time and put a little bit of money into sending me to find out about all this and letting me spend the time to actually have it transpire, right? And to you, Mike, really, I mean, it was great. First of all, because you were there and you did it with us, but to have this platform that we can talk about it. And like you said, not only potentially get more business owners for us, but I talk about it so much. And when we went to lunch, it was just like, okay, Linda, enough. But I am happy to talk about it with anybody, because I can give you, just even if you spend 5 minutes with me, I can give you all the tools, and there's online. Ron Clark has done an amazing job of putting things online to help you as a little guidebook, the whole bit.
That's great.
So it's right there. It's being handed to you.
Yep.
Now you just got to hand it off to your students.
So there are different networks that are going to be seeing this. We've got, of course, the Truth at Work roundtables around Pittsburgh that I'll be sharing this out to, guys and ladies. This is something you want to be involved in. CBMC, Christian Businessmen's Connection. Guys, this is something you want to be involved in. Faith-driven entrepreneur, faith-driven investor here at our network here in Pittsburgh. This is an amazing thing you want to be involved in. There's so many others that will be exposed to this as well. Folks, reach out to Linda. And seriously, even if you can only come for a couple hours, you will be absolutely blown away. And you will leave with more value than you even gave out. You'll see. So, Linda Miller, thank you so much for being with me on the podcast today. Really grateful to you. And man, I'm praying that this thing blows up. And that more and more people get to experience this, more and more kids get to experience this. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you.
Let's get to work!